Rebuilding a Rustproof Land Rover, Part 13, a quick look at a very good lower dashboard panel, followed by cutting some 400 grade wet to dry sandpaper. Then it's outside to sand the bonnet and apply even more primer, plus sanding and applying more acrylic stopper to the bodywork. The first thing to take a look at, apart from the Haynes manual, is this really good lower dashboard blank instrument panel. I bought this via eBay and it really is an excellent piece of equipment. Quite unlike the first one I bought. This is not a Defender, it's actually an old Series 2A that looks like a Series 3. But I do want some modern attachments, like a cigarette lighter or a power takeoff as they're called these days, and a USB charger for my phone. While I was sat at the kitchen table, I thought it would be a good time to cut some 400 grade wet to dry sandpaper sheets to fit my JCB sander. This sander has clips that physically hold the sandpaper, and it's a good way of doing things really. I bought packs of 400 and 600 grit wet to dry sandpaper, but this is only the 400 grit for starters. And then it's outside to sand the bonnet, but not using the sander you've just seen. This is a Bosch rechargeable sander. The problem with these sanders is if you buy the actual sanding sheets from, for instance, the place you bought the sander, they are expensive. By buying them online, they are very cheap and very good quality. This is a glass fibre bonnet, and when I bought the Land Rover back from the estate of my friend the late Ken Rowley, I couldn't believe the condition of the paintwork on this Land Rover. It almost looked like it had been sandblasted. At a guess though, I think possibly a very powerful steam cleaner was used, because the paint was so badly damaged. Even the gel coat of the fiberglass bonnet is damaged, so I'm giving this a special treatment. And for this I'm going to use quite a lot of high build primer rubbing down between coats. The fault wasn't with my painting, it was perfectly fine for me for 14 years. I used it as my everyday vehicle. At the moment I'm not using wet to dry sandpaper, I'm using 120 grit standard sandpaper just to get through the rough surface. I've bought very high quality paint which is put into rattle cans, and for me this is the best way to do it for two reasons. The first reason being I use rattle cans all the time for spraying miniature steam engines, and I get very good results. When I painted this Land Rover originally, I used a full-size spray gun, and the neighbours at both sides at the time complained about the smell. But the rattle cans are not that bad, the volume is not quite as great. A quick word about high build primer in rattle cans. You really have to shake it for a lot longer than it says on the tin, 5 minutes at least. The shaking process in my case with this job started by holding the rattle can in my left hand and sanding with my right hand, whilst vigorously shaking my left hand. Here's a quick shot of the paint drying, and it's looking better already. That is, provided you don't get too close. It's time to look at the general bodywork. I'll take this opportunity straight away to say I am not a painter of vehicles. It's just something I can turn my hand to, and the thing about this is I don't want it to be perfect. Last year I damaged my car on a bit of a stone wall at my daughter's house. It was only a scratch, but once it was repainted by a professional, the finish is perfect. This is a 1971 Land Rover underneath all the bits and pieces that I've fitted to it. The current paint finish is unacceptable. I do not want it to look like a rat rod. I don't get that style. I like things to look correct. You've just been watching me apply some 1K acrylic stopper to the right-hand wing. I did the same yesterday on the left-hand wing, and now it's time to rub it down. And still I am not using wet to dry sandpaper. Here the sander is fitted with a 240 grit sanding pad, and it's levelling the previously applied stopper very well indeed. I also had to fill this wing because there was a dent in it. Stopper is finer than filler, and it's not suitable for large dents. I sanded the dent, filled it with car body filler, sanded the car body filler, applied the stopper, and you've just been watching me sanding the stopper. Here I'm applying some more stopper to the front of the wing. Please note that I am not filling the gaps in between the panels. I will be doing this, but I'll be using a polyurethane type of material. The theory being, as it's flexible, it shouldn't crack, and unlike silicone rubber, paint will stick to it. This Land Rover has been quite a few colours in its life. I think it started off being green, no surprise there, but then at some stage it was painted blue, and you can also see traces of the very successful red oxide primer that I used. At this point I should say, I don't normally dress like this, but to be honest I do a lot of the time. And I always wear these same very baggy work trousers because they're comfortable and very cheap to replace. When I go out anywhere, I'll wear a different pair of trousers. Here I'm replacing the bonnet back into its hinges, and Land Rover hinges for bonnets are very clever. Have a close look sometime. This is really a two-man job, but as my back is feeling much better, I can do it myself now. This old 2 1/4 diesel engine starts really well, but it smokes horrendously when you first start it. I do think I need to replace the valve stem oil seals and probably the injectors as well. Here I'm carefully driving the Land Rover back into my garage, which is very small, and I need to make sure that it's biased towards the left hand side, because if I get too close to the right hand wall I can't get out. I'm trying to get the Land Rover as close as possible to the camera for the video. Even though it looks like I'm on top of the camera, there's about a foot between the front bumper and the tripod. This video was filmed on the 3rd of April, and it was actually booked into a garage called Rossmore Garage. I showed it in a previous video. The next job for the mechanic to do is to fit things like shock absorbers and bushes and things that are low down. Unfortunately though, Rossmore Garage cancelled my appointment because they were apparently overrun with some work. I bought a full set of shock absorbers and even a steering damper. Here are the front and rear bushes. A bit too close to the camera if I'm honest, I'm sorry about that. And here are the front brake pads. I also bought rear brake pads. This oil filter, like the shock absorbers, are Brit part parts. I didn't reckon much to the replacement lights that I bought, but the rest of the things I bought that are Brit part have been okay. At Blanchard's, the Land Rover dealer, where I bought all these parts, I was asked if I wanted a genuine fuel filter or a replica. This apparently is a genuine one, even though it doesn't say Land Rover on it. And that is it. Playtime is over and it's time to put the Land Rover away and do something else, like cook my dinner. I have an electric shutter on the garage which has proved to be very useful, especially when I kept the 4.5-inch scale Showman's engine in there. That's it for now. Stay safe, stay healthy, thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.